Okay, I'm just going to show you guys here what to expect when you get a Forge World model, and how to prepare a resin model to be assembled and painted and everything. So Forge World is probably the place where most of you guys will end up using resin, unless you get into some of the other games, kind of the more non-mainstream games. Yeah, as you can see in this kit, this is a Wraith Seer. It does come with. You'll get this a lot with Forge World kits too. Comes with the plastic kit. This is the actual just regular Wraith Lord sprue. It's just regular plastic. Nothing new here. And then you'll get the parts to convert it. So you get stuff like this. The spear, you can see it's kind of bent. I got really lucky. I didn't get any banana cannons or anything like that. That some people I've seen online where they have, a cannon that's practically the shape of a U. Everything I've got is in decently good shape, but I'll show you guys how to straighten that out. And basically just how to generally prep these to actually use. Okay, now we're going to use some clippers here. Some better clippers would probably be a good idea, but this is all I got at the moment. So just go ahead and clip out everything you're going to need here. Just do be careful. It should come off pretty easily, but do not at all bend this resin. That's why I'm not using an X-Acto knife at this stage, because if you're putting pressure on it on the table, the pressure is really going to end up going on the actual piece instead of on all of the flashing and everything. So be really careful here. Okay, so let me get out some more pieces here and kind of show you. Some of them will come loose, some of them will have come off already. Let me get this in the camera here. So I got my base. This is a really nice piece, by the way. But this comes just on this big block, so you pretty much just clip that off. And do your best to not actually drop the pieces that matter. Some of the stuff will snap off, but I wouldn't bend it. I would honestly cut it, even if you think it's just going to fall right off, because I'll show you here in a minute what bending this resin does, because it is a lot more brittle. Honestly, I like resin a lot. It's a lot more brittle than the plastic is. So try to put as little pressure on the actual piece as possible. Don't cut right up against it if you don't have to. Don't just bend them out like you can with the plastic kits. So let me go ahead and cut all of these out. Okay, now you can just go through just with a regular X-Acto knife and just clean these up. Just kind of get any of the flashing off. It should come off really easily. You can still cut this resin just like you can with plastic. Just be careful not to put too much pressure on it again, because you don't want it to break. Whenever if you're cutting fine stuff off, if you're sanding, filing, sawing, anything like that, make sure you're wearing a mask, because resin dust will actually rip your lungs apart. So yeah, don't screw around with it. If you're filing and sanding stuff, go ahead and put a mask on. That being said, you can sand this just like you can plastic. Just again, being careful because it's more brittle. So you can just use regular sandpaper, or just sand this smoother, just to make it look really nice. And that's pretty much what I'm going to go ahead and do with all of this. This one is actually a surprisingly clean model. Like, that's some of the worst flash I have on this, and that's nothing. So yeah, I got a really clean model. I'm really happy with it. Okay, now that you got all your pieces cut out and cleaned up, we're going to go ahead and take these over. This is probably actually something you might want to do first. I don't care which way I do it. Might be easier to do it first. So we're going to get some warm soapy water. And just scrub these really, really gently with a toothbrush, just to get any of the mold release off of it. It's just something they use to help pop it out of the mold so it doesn't stick. And it also makes it so paint doesn't stick. So you can probably still glue it together, but the paint might start rolling up on it and beating up. So we're going to go ahead and wash these with a toothbrush. Okay, so I just got some warm water here. I'm just going to dip some pieces in. Again, if it's a thin piece, be really careful with it, because it can be brittle. And just give it a little scrub, just to get any mold release off of it. I'm not doing the really tiny pieces just because it's so tedious, and I'm not really that concerned about the really small pieces. And try not to drop them. That should be plenty good, and we'll rinse these here in a minute. Okay, so these are all done here. Just going to leave these out to dry. While we're doing that, I've got some water heating up in the microwave. This here is a little bit bent. I've certainly seen way worse, but it's a little bit bent. This usually happens when they don't allow the mold to the actual resin to cure completely. They just go ahead and pop it out, throw it in a bag, and then they get all bent up before it's actually hard. So, yeah. A little more patience would be appreciated with the model. This is expensive, but I certainly have not gotten the shortest end of the stick that I've ever seen. So we're heating up some water, and we're basically just going to put this in some boiling water for a while until it becomes flexible. We're going to bend it straight and then let it harden. Okay, so I have some extremely hot water here. We're just going to lean this down in it. Only the bottom part's really bent, so I don't have to get the top of it in there. But you can actually see it's kind of starting to fall into the bowl more already, just because it's actually quite soft already. You can see it's just moving whichever way I turn it. So yeah, it doesn't take very long. It's actually extremely flexible at the moment, so you can see I can kind of play with it a bit still. So that's really the only reason that it's not so annoying. It could be a lot worse, but it's the only reason it's not really that annoying to get these bent pieces is they do straighten out really easily. It's just a matter of getting them perfectly straight that's kind of obnoxious. But if you get it kind of droopy like this, you can kind of just let gravity do most of the work. Just fun too, because then if you want to, you could put some of those resin pieces in there and bend them up a little bit. Okay, this seems about good there. Okay, now comes to gluing these together. I would usually use Zap-A-Gap, which is it's definitely my favorite glue ever. It's amazing. I'm not going to, however, I'm just going to use some kind of mildly okay crazy glue. I have loads of this. Just mostly because it's not as good as Zap-A-Gap, and I'm going to be probably busting this apart later after I build it to magnetize it in the future. I'm not going to do it right away, so I'm just going to, I can't wait, so I'm going to build it and paint it, and I'll probably bust it apart later to add some magnets. So this is basically how to work with resin models, how to prep resin models. So thank you guys for watching, and if you watch the next video after this, that should be unboxing and building this race here.